Hi everyone, I'm Jenna, and in today's video I'm going to share with you guys what I did for the entire month of September, which was last month. And what I did reading wise is I participated in a readathon, but not just any readathon, a magical readathon. And this one is created and hosted by G. You can find her over at her channel called Book Roast. Now I must pause here to let you guys know that this has nothing to do with their other magical readathon that had to do with Harry Potter, which she's done for the past 3 years, I believe. But this one is her new magical readathon. Now, let me just repeat that in case you didn't get it. This is not the Harry Potter readathon. This is a new readathon that has this new fantastical fantasy world that she has created, and it's just great. And I'll leave a link below to her introductory video where she goes in depth talking about the background of the world and how it got its magic, the different people of the world, and the different providences that exist in this world. And also, these things can be looked at in a document that she has linked in the description of that video, so I highly recommend you check it out. So now let's get into what I needed to do for the first part of this magical readathon. So for the month of September, we needed to create a character that would live in this world, and then we need to take that character and have it go on the Novice Path, which has 7 different obstacles that we need to pass in order to get to the Aeldia Academy. Now, we didn't need to pass all 7 of the obstacles. We just had to pick, I think it was 3, I could be wrong with that, but it was a very low number that you had to pick. And then you just had to read the book that corresponds with that prompt. And if you did that, then you got to the academy. But I decided to give myself a little bit of a challenge and try to do all 7 prompts along with each of the different obstacles, because I felt like I was going on this journey more so if I just picked and choose which ones I wanted to do. So yeah, I guess now I'm going to tell you about all the different prompts, each of the different obstacles, and what I decided to read for each of them, and if I managed to read said book, and if I did, briefly what I thought about it. So let's get to it. So the first thing is the Novice Path entrance. And the prompt for this is that you need to read a book with a map in it. And for this, I decided to go with The Assassin's Blade, the Throne of Glass novellas, and these are the prequel novellas to the Throne of Glass series, and there are 5 of them in this book. And I managed to finish this, and I loved it a lot. I liked the fact that each of the different novellas were connected to each other, but each one of them felt like it was its own thing while being part of a whole, and I just thought that was really, really great. I loved the backstory we get on Selena and how she is where she is and how she ends up where she does at the beginning of the Throne of Glass book, and it just all in all was a great ride, and I'm glad that I read it. And if you don't believe me, I want to show you the map that this book has. Then we have the Ashen Tree, where you have to read a book that is on the top of TBR, the one where you are just dying to get to. And for this, I originally had another book on here, but I decided to change it to another one because this one's a little shorter, and that book is Take Me With You When You Go by David Leviathan and Jennifer Niven. And as you can see, I did get this at Target, and I didn't know this was a thing until I saw it at Target, and immediately made my heart happy because I love David Leviathan stuff and Jennifer Niven's. So I just knew this was going to be a great book. So I picked it up for this prompt, and I was not disappointed in it at all. Because in this one we follow two siblings, Bay and Ez. And Bay is the older sister and Ez is the younger brother. And basically, Bez in this book runs away and leaves Ez an email address, and they start communicating through that, and you get to figure out like why Bay sort of ran away before graduation and all that. And it was really, really good. There is some heavy stuff in this book relating to the abusiveness of the stepfather and how the mom doesn't recognize it as that, and she just sees the kids not being grateful of this new like father figure in their life, and just towards that, and it just was really, really good and would highly recommend. And after that we got to The Mist of Solitude, and that is where you need to read a standalone book. And for this I decided to read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, and this is one I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this book and say a lot of great things about it, so I decided to pick it up and read it, and I'm glad that I did because I freaking loved it. It's a 5 out of 5 star book, and if you don't know, this book is essentially about these two girls. This one is sort of just moved to New York, and she's going to the school there, college, and she goes on the Q train and sees this girl, Asian girl, on the train, and then keeps seeing her on there, and then starts falling for her, and then they sort of realize together that the girl on the train is actually stuck on the train, and she's from the past. And I don't know why she's got there, but they're trying to figure out like her life and how they can get her back to time, and if they even want to get her back to time, or if they want to try to get her back like maybe to their time so that these two can maybe possibly be together, because there might be a romance between them. And oh my gosh, this book was just really good. I love just the way that it was and pacing of it, and the mystery aspect a little bit about surrounding the Asian girl and why she's stuck on this train, and just as often figuring out a little bit about her and her life, and it just was great, and I can see why everyone that reads this book too really loves it. Now on to Ruin of Sky. Now this one I had a different book for, but decided to switch this one out for Any Way the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell. And I chose this one because we had to read a book that had either like haunted house, a ghost in it, or like supernatural elements, and this is a series that follows Simon and Baz. And Baz is a vampire, and vampires are very much supernatural, so this works. And I managed to start and finish this book, and I gotta say that I really enjoyed myself while I read this conclusion to the series. I really like that Simon and Baz and their relationship, and how they really communicate with each other and are so sweet to each other and all that. It's not a 5 out of 5 stars, but a 4 out of 5 stars, and I couldn't really tell you like why it's not a 5 out of 5, but it just isn't. Glad that I read it and didn't put it on. Now we're on to Obsidian Falls, where we need to read a thriller book or a mystery book. Now, I don't read many books that are specifically classed as those things, but I do read books that have that element in the book, even if that's not like the main thing. And I did manage to find one on my TBR shelf that I've had for a while. I decided to use it for this prompt, and that is this book called Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. And this book, I'm so glad I read because I loved it so much. I think one of the main reasons why I loved it so much was because the main character in this book has just ended a relationship with another girl, and she, it's one of those relationships that they're like on and off again, on and off again, on and off again, and it's just like that. It's really affected my own relationship, and I just felt kind of seen in that. Yeah, before going further, gushing about this book, let me give you what the plot is. So basically, we have, I forget her name. Emmy Price ends up going with a friend to like this state auction, and it happens to be this place of one of her brother's favorite actors that she kind of loves too, just because of her brother. And because of this, they end up finding this note he addresses to this lady, and so they go on this journey to try to figure out who this lady is, and then subsequently leads to more mystery and more things get uncovered. So that's basically all I can tell you, because this is not too long of a book. I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but just know that this is great. It has a film backdrop, and our main character does set design stuff, and it just was fascinating to read about. I'm sharing through one of the quotes that has to do with the relationship, and it was just like, you feel like seen. So here it is. This conversation isn't that different from the 5 others you had before getting back together, but it feels different because wanting someone is not the same as loving her. And now I understand that Morgan does not love me. When you love someone, you are sure. You don't need to decide. You don't say stop and start over and over like you're playing some kind of sport. You know the immensity of what you have, and you protect it. So good. Now the second to last obstacle I need to get past is the Tower of Rumination, and that is where you need to read a 5-star prediction. And for this, I decided to go with Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo, and she's the author that wrote The Poet X, and that book I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. So when I saw that she had this book, I got it, and I was probably gonna give this a 5 out of 5 stars too. Really hoping it was, and I did. This, like her The Poet X book, this one is also written in verse, and I loved it. This basically follows these 2 girls. One's from Puerto Rico, and one's from the Dominican Republic, and the other is from New York. And the dad spends time with these 2 girls, have to deal with that, but also dealing with the fact that finding out about the other person and about dealing with grief. Just the way that it was done was just so phenomenal. I just really loved it so much. And you can bet that I'll be reading anything else that Elizabeth Acevedo does, because what she's put out so far is just amazing. And the last place we get to is the Aurelium Arc, and that leads us to the Aurelium Academy when we pass through the arc. And for this one, we needed to read a book with a school setting, and for this I chose the latest book that I had purchased, which has a school setting, and that is The Magicians by Lev Grossman, and this is the first book in the Magicians trilogy. And this has elements of Narnia and Harry Potter. But Harry Potter, if it was set in college instead of middle school, high school. And I only managed to get to about 100 or so pages of this, and I just was liking it, not loving it at the beginning, but since then, after the readathon ended, I read more and I am liking it a lot. This book follows this kid who is obsessed with these magical books called Fillory, and he's imagining this place that you go to almost like Hogwarts, and he knows that it's not going to be. But then he finds this place that isn't Fillory, but it's this place where he learns how to do magic. He's there for like 5 years, and after the first book goes in depth with telling about him harnessing his magic. And then I'm into the second book where after he graduates and Harry may or may not have found Fillory. So book 2 is a little more interesting, so I'm like, let's see where this goes from here. And yeah, I am really loving it now more than I did in the beginning. That's all the books that I read, and I'm happy with the progress that I did make. You know, I wish I had finished my last book, but sadly I didn't, but it doesn't hinder me from getting into the academy. And look forward to another video where I go in depth about my character that I made and the 3 books I need to read for my character development and all that. So look forward to that video coming really soon. And yeah, I will see you guys doing a new one. Hope you liked it. Bye!